提到歷史研究咧，大家可能會有個感覺，呢個係學者嘅專利。但係所謂高手在民間，喺香港嘅公民社會裏邊咧，其實有唔少朋友以唔同嘅方式同手法去從事同歷史相關嘅活動。一連三集，我哋會介紹3位學院以外嘅朋友，佢哋長期積極咁推動香港嘅歷史知識。呢一集我哋首先同古老 .com 嘅 David Bellis 傾下偈。
So we're at the edge of Sun Pogong. This is Jertluk Street here, Tai Sing Street here, and this is Choi Hung Road running down in front of us. So with history, we have to look back to Sun Pogong in the 1950s, when this area was part of the old Kai Tak airport, and they had a runway here, which wasn't long enough. The planes were getting heavier, faster, so the solution was a little extension on the end, and that extension is what we're looking at here. Bridge here running across the Nulla. When a plane was coming into land here, all of the traffic would have to stop in a queue and wait till the plane lands, sails on past, and then the traffic can drive on again.
So hi David, so nice talking to you. It's finally got a chance to meet you in person. We all heard about the gulo.com for a very long time, and this is very exciting to have a chance to talk to you. But first of all, when and why did you come to Hong Kong?
So originally I'm from southwest Wales, very small town, Milford Haven in Pembrokeshire, end of the world. I was a software engineer, worked on that for about 5 years. And then in my mid-20s, I came out here to Hong Kong. That was the 1989. It was arrived in October 1989. I remember I left on a frosty morning in Britain, and I arrived in beautiful October weather in Hong Kong. I bought a guidebook. This was sort of before the internet. So the main page was the cheap accommodation page, which sent me to Chungking Mansions. I caught the bus into Tsim Sha Tsui, and so I was looking out of the window and everybody was Chinese. I didn't see any Western faces at all, and I did have a bit of a, oh my goodness, what have I done, a feeling. And then get into Tsim Sha Tsui, and it's a bit more a mix of different cultures and people there. So it's like, oh well, let's give this a go.
Very much of our main concern here is, so why gulo.com?
Yes. So it started off with a backgong.com, and it was to be a blog about the expat life in Hong Kong. It turns out Hong Kong's history is a lot more interesting than my expat life, so we kind of wrote more and more about history until the time when the two were separated, and then Gulo's just focuses on history. And then people started uploading photos and sharing photos, and that's probably grown to be what the website is best known for. Makes up about 60% of the pages are about photos. It's not my site in terms of the content. The content comes from lots of different people, so it has to be what they are interested in. So people will come to me sometimes and say, oh, why haven't you written about X, Y, Z? And I'll say, well, because you haven't written about it. If you're interested, come and join in and write about it.
Do you have offline meetings with the most active members?
Perhaps once or twice a year we'll have a little get-together. Just maybe 10 people or so, go for a dinner or something like that. A couple of friends enjoy the exploring outdoors, which I like very much as well. So there's a friend, Phil. We'll go out and investigate a little area that we're curious about, and often that triggers some news stories that we can feed back into the website.
There must be some point that you think that, okay, that's too much work. So what are the major challenge in maintaining this website?
I guess tedious over time is you're always trying to encourage people to, as I say, it's like your mum going along saying, tidy up your room, eat your vegetables. So I'm going along saying, quote your sources, ask for permission, just trying to keep the good practices going. And you want to try and do that without frightening people away, so getting that balance is always a bit tricky. The money, fortunately, these days is smaller because it's open source software. Hosting is quite easy to arrange, and we do have they're called patrons, the Patreon website. People make a small monthly contribution, so that covers the out-of-pocket expenses. So the big investment is time, really.
There must be some exciting, most memorable discussions along the year, right?
There was a diary that we had posted up as part of a Wartime Diaries project. We knew it was written by a prison officer, R.E. Jones. It was in the possession of a different family completely, and they didn't know how they'd got it. The father passed away and it was found. So it went up on the website, and the plea went out, if anyone knows the family, please ask them to get in touch. And then several years later, there's just a comment on the website one morning which says, I am R.E. Jones' daughter, please contact me. And I've got goosepimples now just remembering it. It was so cool. The daughter's been very open about the troubled relationship she had with her father, because the British women were evacuated in 1940, including her pregnant mother. She was born in Australia, the young girl. So they grew up separately, husband here in Stanley Camp in the war years. And the diary records several affairs with different women in the camp. And at the end, he's sailing back to Britain to meet his wife and daughter, who he's never known. And the daughter and the father never got on. So it's a troubled relationship, and he died when she was in her teens. So she said she'd never had the chance to have this conversation with him and work it out, and that reading the diary to her was that conversation, and it just made so much clear and answered so many problems. So wow, that's the history that we do on 𝐶𝐸 is often quite small scale. It's not the grand history of sort of nations clashing, and I don't know what the academic world thinks of it as they look at it, but for the individual, a lot of it is about, oh, that's the view from my school. It is no longer there, but suddenly it brings back all these memories. Or, oh, for the first time ever, I've seen where my father grew up, because it's all been demolished and we've got no contact of it. I'm not saying this happens every day. It might happen 2 or 3 times a year, but you remember it for a long time.
Let me put a question a bit provocative. Is I suppose most of the active members of your 𝐶𝐸.com network and you yourself are expatriate. Have you been criticized as, okay, this is in a way this expatriate perspective of Hong Kong?
Each community has its own experience and its own history, and they're all important parts of Hong Kong. They're not the most important. They're important to them. So I don't pretend it's a comprehensive history. I know it's definitely got a Western slant. I read in English. The people who send us photos are often either Western tourists or expats who've lived a very privileged life here. But it's not all that either. We have people who are local Chinese, either living here now or have lived here or have ancestors who lived here. We do get some of that as well. It's really down to what people are willing to share. One of the saddest things is when you come across somebody who's written a history about something and has never shared it and has perhaps passed away, and you meet a child later who knew of it but doesn't know where it's gone. So I'd just say, don't wait too long if you've got something to share. It doesn't have to be 𝐶𝐸, it can be Wikipedia, there are all sorts of places you can do this, but just share what we know. It helps everyone.
David Bellis 嘅毅力絕對令人佩服。喺缺乏資源嘅情況之下，可以長期維持佢嘅網站嘅運作，一啲都唔簡單。但係對於所有從事研究同創作嘅朋友，最大嘅動力往往在於自己嘅成果有人睇、有人講、有人感到興趣。David Bellis 絕對做到呢3點。我亦都希望呢一集能夠引起大家嘅注意，同埋可以稍稍提高大家對香港歷史嘅興趣。